and I believe in you. I believe in the simple things and everything you do. I believe in the heavens above, and I believe in truth. I believe in the love we have, because I believe in you. So tell me, do you feel the way that I feel? And tell me, would you give what I'm willing to give? And I believe in honesty, and I believe it's true. And I believe if you set it free, it will come back to you. And I believe that things were meant to really be. And I believe in the love we have, because I believe in you.
Good day, everybody. This is stand-in host Solvinor. And just as last week, when I call in for the Skype, for the radio, my computer just says, okay, that's about enough. Not going to do any more for you. So, I would say stay tuned. We're going to get this problem solved. And because I was planning on getting some more people on. So, hold on tight, guys. We should be right back.
Okay, I wonder if I'm in with you, Walter. Oh boy, I tried to add myself, so hopefully this does not mess things up. I'm going to come back and chat. What do you guys hear? Maybe you're hearing me and we lost Walter. I dialed in the network after he had opened. I'm not sure if that's causing an effect. I'm going to open the player a little bit and see what's happening. I'm not hearing nothing. No, I hear myself now. Okay. So let me go try to actually add Walter. Perhaps. Hey, Jax. Dadgummit. And we're going to have lots of lag from my end while Walter and I try to converse. Uh-oh. Bad. Okay. I think we're going to do this. Anyways, hey, I'm Vince Easley, for What Matters Worldwide on Thursday nights, filling in for Cynthia, along with Mr. Walter Hendricks from the land of the Dutch, way across the waters. And I'm dialing him now, I think. Yes, and I believe Walter has joined.
Hello.
Yes. All right, Walter Hendricks, Solar event on Saturdays in the AMs right here. Always great radio. And so you and I are filling in, and since I've now got the call, we're going to have a bit of a delay. So I'll say, okay, Walter, take it away. And that's your cue when you hear okay to start talking. Welcome back, Walter.
Yeah, listen, maybe we could let April host it. Is that a good idea?
Is April here?
Yeah.
Well, if she is willing, that would be awesome. And we'll hang up.
Yeah, so hang up and we will let April do it, okay?
Good deal. All right, see, add me back.
Is that a good idea?
Yeah, it's a good idea.
All right.
And I think April and I have contacts together, so if not, send contact information between the two of us. Would you, Walter, please?
All right. There we go. Now, to get some more people in, right? Hold on, guys. We're fixing some trouble here. And here we go. That's one. Now this one. It's there. And another one.
Okay, we're all together.
We're all together here. Okay.
And this one, now we are. I'm hoping we can get this on the road, so to speak.
Sorry, I got the player on. Oops.
Friston, are you there?
That was me.
Friston is still busy, it says. Huh? April, are you there?
Well, April's here, and Vincent's here, and Walter's here, and you get Friston, and I'll open up a little bit, and then I'll kick it over to you, April. Talking about social control and theories behind that, and exploring how the world is basically operates today because people's beliefs, their ideologies or religions and so forth, political and so forth and so on, and also, as far as how we consider the benevolent beings that control our world through the industry, such as, the petrochemical industry and the fossil fuel industries and, gas and oil and all that stuff. So let me kick it over to you, April, and I will stand by.
Vincent, is that you? Yeah.
Yes, that was Vincent.
Yeah.
Oh.
Hey, April.
Hi, I'm sorry I missed the beginning of what you were saying. So I'd love you to kick it over to me, but I kind of missed what you were saying here. I kind of just got into the call. So I heard you talking about the benevolent leaders of industry. Is that what you were saying?
Yeah, talking about societal control. Really, we're continuing a discussion between James Corbett this morning with Walter on his show this morning. So I thought it'd be interesting to go ahead and continue in that direction, and we can explore some of these people that really are were behind, like Edward Bernays and many others. So we see that America has a mindset, with a lot of football and rah-rah and hoorah,
okay.
and kicking up your heels on the weekend.
Good.
All right, welcome.
Hi. Hi, Vincent. Nice to hear your voice.
Good to talk with
finally talk to you. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. That's cool. So yeah. Anyway, so we're gonna. I hope we're gonna be able to talk about some of the what controls the world that we live in today. What shaped it? What makes people operate the way we do today? We go Black Friday and Christmas, and then we've got all this stuff. Just basically that feeds into the corporatocracy. And they have conditioned people's mind for many, many years, and this is nothing new. So this is what I'd like to discuss, continuing with Walter's discussion then with James Corbett this morning. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys and let y'all come in.
Well, I think what you're talking about with the Black Friday and consumerism or conditioning everybody, you mentioned Edward Bernays, and that was the model to sell people on the idea that they needed things that they didn't need. And it's not only used for people to buy products and to purchase things, but it's also used in mainstream media as far as the news goes. You're sold on this idea to support whatever cause it is that they want to support. Like CNN was big at that. They were one of the first to hire psychologists into their newsroom so that people would be sold on the idea of, I think that their big was back in the early 90s when they were selling people on the idea of the Persian Gulf War, and they wanted everybody to get behind it. So they created this campaign to get people interested in it, just as you would, selling a product like toothpaste, but they were selling a war. And So I think that it's prevalent. I mean, I don't know how. I think it's everywhere. I don't know how far deep it goes because it's just so prevalent in everything that you see. You can see it in the grocery store, in the news, on the internet. I mean, anywhere you go. So it's hard to break that conditioning. It's hard to break out of that mindset that has been built up for us.
Mm-hmm. Kristen?
April did such a good job. So we're talking about consumerism and materialism. I'm a teacher, and it's very scary to me to see how it has consumed the minds of consumerism has consumed the minds of children to the point where they build their self-worth on the things that they have, or the things that or they look at other people's self-worth based on the materials that they have, and I think that it leads to a lack of empathy. It leads to low self-esteem issues, but that's interesting because that's a way to really when people have low self-esteem issues and when they have lack of empathy for other people and they don't really make the effort to look down and get to know people. They're judging people on things whether are they good at this video game? Do they have this video game? Do they have an iPhone? Do they have an iPad? If they don't have these things, then this person isn't even worth my time. They're not even worth talking to. They're not even worth getting to know. But when you have those issues, you have these, issues of disconnect within a society, and then you also have the issue of like self-esteem because there are people that maybe can't afford those things, and then they feel worthless because they can't afford the iPod or the iPad or the cool shoes or the car, and then the people are easier to control.
Right.
Then you can entice them, giving them jobs or money, or making them, become drug dealers, or because then they'll have the money to buy all of the fancy things.
Yeah.
And then they'll feel like they'll feel worthy.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. It's very creepy. I feel like I'm lucky because I would say that I grew up poor by America's standards, but at the same time, my parents tried to help me. If I wanted something, my parents tried to get it for me, and if they couldn't afford it, we had other members of the family help us out financially with certain things.
Awesome.
But at the same time, there were just certain things that I wanted, and my friends had, and my parents couldn't afford it, and they were just like, "Well, you're not getting it," and I'd be like, "Why?" And they'd be like, "Because we can't afford it." And then I just have to deal with it. But flash forward 20 years later, I'm okay. I'm fine. I didn't die because
Yeah.
I had a student in my class whose parents didn't want to get him a phone. Like all the other students, I teach at a prep school, so the kids are kind of well off. Their parents own businesses. I wouldn't say they're exactly poor. Some of them were richer than others, but anyway. This one kid in my class, they were teasing him because his parents won't get him a cell phone. And I was like, so? That's great. I wouldn't get my child a cell phone at like 9 years old either. Or a smartphone. It was a smartphone. But still, like I wouldn't get my kid, a smartphone at 9 years old. I don't think, I'm not, and if you do, I'm not saying you're necessarily a bad person, but I feel like, this kid is brilliant and smart and creative. He has so many other brilliant, lovable qualities about him, and yet they're going to pick on him because his parents didn't get him a smartphone. Like one of these kids is doing his own thing.
Yeah. You mentioned self-worth, and people are looking at other people like, do they have this game or do they have this car? And people know that. And the point is that that's what they are looking for. They are looking for other people's brains. They're trying to get in there and find out what they are thinking about the person that's looking in the brain, right?
Yeah.
And so you kind of tend to shift your self-worth to the outside, to what other people think of you.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where it goes wrong. Another thing you mentioned is low self-esteem. Now, because I'm such a fan of the Trivium, I should tell you that you should get into the Trivium and teach Trivium to the children, because it gives such a boost to your self-esteem. It's amazing. It really is.
Yeah.
So, Vincent, for how long are we on anyway?
We're on for another 39 minutes, and it's 2:21 on the left coast here of America.
Okay,
and you're 7 hours ahead, so I'm out in White Hills of Arizona, about 60 miles from Vegas right now.
Okay. Yeah, we're in California, April and I. So this is a great mix of a geography right here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but wait. So near you were saying that I'm where I am right now. I'm not in a position to really. I try and give them little bits of information that would encourage them to be autodidacts and look for. But I'm on such a regimented schedule with the material I have to teach. I'm actually easing out of education right now too, because they're implementing Common Core into the education system, and it's just it's something that I don't want to be a part of, among other politics that come along with being a teacher. I mean, the children are always the best part, but I know I wish. I mean, that's something that should be implemented. Speaking of the trivium, it's something that should be implemented, and maybe not necessarily the trivium itself, but something that at least causes the children to critically think and be autodidactic.
Yeah.
And that's not even an option. They're just like, impose these lists of standards and make everybody fit, and basically they're going to turn people into automatons, and the ones that aren't going to fit, they're probably going to medicate them or give them some, horrible diagnosis and, shun them. And it's not going to work for everybody, so.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, going back to what we're talking about. So the topic today is what? Consumerism, materialism?
Well, we can go anywhere you like. It's no problem. Vince?
Yeah, right. What I'd hope to talk about mainly and focus is more or less how society has been manipulated into the way it is. And talk about some of the people, like I said, Bernays, some of the people that you and James Corbett were talking about this morning, Walter. Yeah. And so if you just reflect back on some of the discussion that y'all had, and maybe take us in that direction. And so why are people, just accept the system today, the war machine, and, industrialism, consumerism, and so forth. So let me hand that to you.
Yeah, well, it's mind control. That's what it is. They don't need to keep us in chains anymore, because they have control of our mind now, which is a much better way of keeping control of people, you see. And but Kirsten, you mentioned. I'm sorry, Vince, but you mentioned the Common Core thing, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's also here in the Netherlands. My
what? Nephew, do they call it Common Core?
I'm not exactly sure what they call it. But my nephew came to me and he said, "Could you help me with these math problems?" And I said, "Yeah, sure, okay. Let me see. What are you doing?" And he showed me what he was doing, and I was like, "What are you doing? This is not the way they taught us math, Yeah.
Right.
They really messed it up for these children, making it very, very complicated where it doesn't need to be,
Right.
And so that it creates so much confusion and doublethink into people. Yeah. That it becomes easy to lead them on the pasture, so to speak, right?
Right.
Yeah. It makes them much more ignorant and uneducated, and I think that's by design. Speaking of which, going back to why we are in the position we are as a society, the education system is another branch. This is why all of these elites, they have their hands in, media manipulation and education and, GMO foods and, because the GMO foods, and the pharmaceutical industry, all of them have their hand in that somewhere or another. And when you control those things, it's all under the umbrella of mind control.
Mm-hmm.
Because people aren't healthy. then they get sick. They'll do anything to get well. We've been brainwashed to believe that the only way to cure any illness that we have is by taking a pill, but yet the pill has side effects and makes us sicker in the long run. And, and then you have the television that advertises the pharmaceutical, they advertise the pharmaceutical medicine,
Yeah.
and it brainwashes people with negative news. And I mean, it's just this whole cycle that just keeps going on. And until people realize what is happening, we're going to still stay stuck in it,
Yeah, you guys allow that, right? Letting on TV ads for drugs?
Yeah, they don't do that in the Netherlands.
No, it's not allowed here.
You guys are smart. You guys are ahead of us.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's terrible. It's like it's terrible. And
it's big.
What's even worse is and when they advertise it at the list of each each advertisement, there's for pharmaceutical drug, there's always like a list of side effects a million miles long, but they always say it like really fast. And then I swear within the next few months there's always a class action suit. There's a commercial, then they have commercials for class action suits saying that if you've had side effects from this drug. But we've had Gwen Olson on our show, who was a pharmaceutical rep, and she told us that they put aside money. They already know that they're going to have to pay out some people anyway, so but the profits that they make are much greater.
Yeah.
So they just put aside money to pay those people out anyway. It's terrible. It's horrible. I'm glad to hear that you guys don't have commercials. That's wonderful.
Yeah, well, we have commercials, but it's more for buy this toy or get this computer. But no drugs. Yeah,
no drug commercials. Yeah, but that's what I mean. That's great. That's wonderful. Kudos to you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we're the only countries that do that. I mean, it's really there's a really funny clip if you check out YouTube. Cat Williams, the comedian, it's called Cat Williams Drugs in America. It's like less than 5 minutes long, and he talks about this. I don't know if you are familiar with him as an artist, but he's a lot of stand-up comedians. We talk a lot about stand-up comedy on our show because we feel that they're sort of the storytellers of our society. They're very culturally tuned in, or they tend to be. That's their job, to be very observant of society. So the really good ones can really tap into what's going on. And he has this. He's no different. He has this bit where he talks about it, and it's really, really funny. But it's honest. It's true. It's these just as Verstein said, exactly as she described. He describes in this clip, but in a hilarious way, that how they had put his son on Ritalin, and because he was running all the time and he was hyperactive, and so this idea of selling everybody on a society that normal childhood experiences like being hyperactive is a problem. They're telling you that. I mean, in I don't know if this is happening in the Netherlands, but here in the U.S. and also in Canada, they've started giving Ritalin, which is speed, it's amphetamines, to 4-year-olds.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Kids
I don't know
4 years
exactly
old.
What's going on with that in schools here in the Netherlands. I do know that we are also under the yoke of these psychiatrists and such, that they think they know we are sick. They make up all kinds of new quote-unquote sicknesses for people so that they can sell their drugs. And some children have been, it's said here in the Netherlands also, that they have been diagnosed with ADHD. But I also saw a video of this doctor, I believe he was, I'm not sure, that said that ADHD doesn't exist. It's just a made-up thing, And when I look at what they say are the symptoms, I was like, every kid is like that, You're supposed to be busy and run around and explore all things possible, and do dangerous things even,
For sure. Yeah, well, I will say that I have an autistic son, and he regressed into autism after vaccination, and so I don't doubt that there's something going on that is changing the way that children behave, and some of these kids are diagnosed with ADHD. So when they say that it doesn't exist, I mean it's yes and no. It exists because because there is something behaviorally incorrect, but they're mislabeling it. They're not calling it an autoimmune disease, which is what it really is, because most of these kids, when you scratch the surface, they have severe gastrointestinal problems. They have severe allergies. They're very sick. They get sick more frequently than other children do. They're very, very reactive to food. So even when it's not a typical allergy, they may not have a rash, but they'll have some sort of behavioral problem where they might sort of be bouncing off the walls or breaking chairs or doing things sort of unexplainable. I mean, hyperactivity in and of itself is not a diagnosis, I mean, for a little kid, especially if you're something like 4. I mean, give me a break. They're all hyperactive. But there is something going on with our children. There's no doubt about it that it's changing the behavior. And they might not be full-blown, they might not have the autistic criteria, they might not fit into that diagnosis, but they still have some of those behaviors, and they'll call that ADHD. So it's complex. But I mean, I'm not going to say that there isn't a problem with our children at all, because there really is, and they're very, very sick. It's like this thing where, you know, when I was a child, growing up in the 80s, I mean, nobody had allergies. Everybody ate what they wanted, or very rarely. And now it's like every kid has a problem. And for seeing you as a teacher, can attest to this. It's like every kid has a reaction to food. They come back from lunch and they're all crazy. Yes. And, you know, things like this it's just prevalent. And I've seen it in, you know, my own children, and also in, you know, the children that they go to school with, or the kids that they hang out with around. It's just, there's always some sort of physical ailment, and sometimes that can manifest into a behavioral problem. But rather than getting to the root of the cause, which is autoimmune reaction generally brought on by an environmental toxin, GMOs, vaccines, et cetera, and so they have some sort of autoimmune reaction, and then it causes a behavioral response, and then they'll drug that. So they'll sedate the problem rather than actually try and get to the problem.
Yeah, that's typical.
And they'll drug it, and then they'll turn the kids into psychopaths by doing that.
Yeah.
Sometimes, in some cases. Like, I worked in a lot of, you know, I was a long-term sub for like 8 years, and one of the ways I would make my money was I would work with special ed children. Sometimes they would label them as emotionally disturbed, where maybe they can learn stuff, but they just had like, I don't know, violent tempers, to the point where in some classrooms I actually had to have, they didn't label it a bodyguard. I labeled it a bodyguard though, but they had somebody in the classroom with me in case one of the kids got out of control, that they could restrain them. Jeez. And I literally walked into one classroom, and there was this little boy, and he was about 5, and he had knocked all of his teeth out, like jaws. And I'm not I know I exaggerate sometimes, but in this situation, I'm not exaggerating. Have you seen James Bond? You know Jaws, that has like the silver teeth?
Yeah.
He had his whole mouth was like that.
Ouch.
And I leaned over, and I was like, "Hi, how are you? What's your name?" And he's like, "Ah!" And he just jumped on me and attacked me. And I know that this kid was being medicated, and at the time, I really didn't. I'm putting all this together now that I've left that situation, and I'm looking at all the reactions that people have had, all the gun shootings, you know, and a lot of these kids that, you know, people that have done these shootings have been on some kind of pharmaceutical drug. You know, and I had another kid, we were watching TV, and I know he was on medication. He walked out of the classroom, we're watching like a Disney movie, walked back in, and then just punched this girl in the face.
What?
And just starts throwing chairs and stuff. And nothing, I know, set him off. Maybe he didn't like Disney. I don't know. Like, maybe he was sick of Disney, you know, but still. And it was just, I mean, I don't, I mean, it's scary. I don't know. I think, you know, that has to, the drugging of the children has to do, they're not, like April said, they're not looking at like diet, and they're not looking at, they just want to put these children on drugs, and these drugs have horrific side effects, and you know, they're very addictive, you know, and they cause psychosis, and I mean, that's like their only solution. What is wrong with that?
Yeah.
Right. And it's going back to what you were talking about in the beginning, Vincent, this conditioning, or this societal model that wants to sort of mind control the masses. This is exactly what when we had Gwen Olson, who Verstine mentioned earlier, on our show, and she was a pharmaceutical rep, she described what they use as these disinformation campaigns. So essentially, it's what they do is they put out information about these drugs, and then they make it so confusing people don't know which road to follow. So it's deliberately sort of sending them down the wrong path. So they'll say, oh, there's side effects, but then these ones say that there isn't. And then this study says that, so they compartmentalize each thing, each facet, whether it be for pharmaceuticals or vaccines or GMOs. You'll read the science on it, quote, but it's not, but it's so convoluted with disinformation that nobody really knows what is correct, and then they end up just following whatever their doctor tells them to do. And the doctors are conditioned to not think critically, and they're not, we had another great interview with Dr. Rima Lebo, who talked about going through medical school and how they condition them through mind control, basically. I mean, it's they use manipulative tools such as sleep deprivation and ridicule and these types of things in order to keep them in line. And so they don't question it. They don't ever question what they're doing. They just feed people these pharmaceuticals or these vaccines and tell people that that's what they need. And nobody ever questions that model. Nobody ever questions that doctrine unless they have a reaction. And then once they have a negative reaction, that's usually what wakes people up to say, well, hey, But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes people just continue on that parade. They just go from one drug to the next until, they're on like 13 different things. So that's all part of that reason as to why people aren't thinking clearly, and they're not, because they're medicated, they're drugged. They don't know, what, they don't know what's reality anymore. It's just,
I think we can chalk some of this up to behaviorism tactics that have been spun upon us also. Conditioning is like a programmed response.
Yes.
And what you said, we don't think for ourselves, and therefore we react instead of acting.
Yeah.
See, that's the conditioning that's going on.
I think...
Go ahead, Vince.
I think when one realizes that this has been going on for a long time. I mean, these plans have been in the works and been being instituted and formulated for decades now. And even the Common Core, I bet you can trace it back to John Dewey. Who they call the father of modern education, and it was nothing more than indoctrination. The school system is just training people to continue in the slave society. Where there's just a very few people that really are getting all the cream off the top of the milk, from the masses. Keeping us in line, we're coming into the information age here where we're able to converse like we are right here around the world, literally face to face. So we're really on a tipping point right now, and I believe, the war stepped up against the people with more and more of the chemicals, the drugging of our children. So this is a real war, and more and more people, everyday run-of-the-mill people are realizing that, hey, there's something really fishy going on. It stinks to high heaven, and people are seeing that. So I think what we're all doing here now is really making a larger impact than, say, like 20, 25 years ago. So...
Right. People have to be woken from their conditioning. It's a hard thing to unravel because, like you were mentioning, this sort of I think it was B.F. Skinner, the psychologist who came up with the behaviorism, and it's this idea of reinforcement, and that goes back to what Verstine was talking about with the consumerism. I mean, it's like instant gratification. You're not thinking critically about whether or not you need this product, but it's immediately reinforcing for whatever it is that you gave away. You gave away your money, you gave away your time, you gave you're in a job you don't like, whatever it is. But your gratification is this feeling of elatement or whatever that you get once you buy something that you think is going to make you happy. So, but that's all the B.F. Skinner model, and it's the same with the school programs. Charlotte Iserby exposed this many, many years ago. It's that this was what they were going to use. It was going to be a reward system. So kids weren't going to be excited about actually learning. They were going to be excited because they were going to get a reward at the end of it. Yeah. And so that it was like you get stickers or you get, a party or, things like that. And and prizes, and so they're not learning how. They're just learning. They're being programmed to learn skills, but not actually how to think. And thinking is dynamic. It's not static at all. But this is a static way of thinking. It's just
it's fear-based. They make you think in advertising that you need this item, otherwise you're not going to be complete.
Right.
And that's the fear that they feed on. And then you buy this item and you still don't feel complete, of course, but, at least that's what they want you to believe.
Totally.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, no, it's fear-based, and it's this behaviorist model. It's exactly what you said, and they use fear. They use rewards that are tangible, things that aren't, the real rewards in life are, friendships and love and things that you can't buy, but they want to give you tangibles because those give you instant gratification. You don't have to work as hard for that. You get it right away. If something tastes good or if it feels good or if it looks good, it's an instant gratification. And so those are the models, I'm very familiar with this because, having an autistic son, I've had to go down this rabbit hole as well, because that's those are the types of therapies and programs that they use in the school or so these are the types of things they try and sell you on, is just a strict behavioral model. So they condition the children to, get dressed in the morning, for example, but they want to teach them by reward. So,
yeah, that's, here in the Netherlands also at school, it's not the same as in Canada where I went to school. I noticed there when you got grades, that's also a kind of reward, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You get an A, a B, or a C, or a D. And I was thinking, what's this? Why letters? Because in the Netherlands I was used to getting numbers. A 1 was bad, 2 was also bad, 6 was like a C or something, Yeah. And 8 was like a B. So we had this 1 to 10 number system of getting rewards. So you can see also there that they're conditioning you that you should get the highest grade possible. And that's how you are viewed, not on who you are, but on how good you are at repeating things that have been presented before you.
Yeah.
Verstin, are you there? No, she's not there.
Did she drop?
Because she's the teacher,
Right. Yeah, exactly. So her insight is really good as a teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, we did an interview with Clint Richardson about the Common Core, and it's really just ramping up. It's not anything new, particularly. It's just they're making it universal now. They're making it so that it's not... she's saying that she can't.
Yeah, I'll try and get her back in.
Get her back in here. But anyway, so it's something that's been going on for a while. They're just now trying to make it universal so that it's common throughout the country. It's not working, though. I think that a lot of states have actually denied it. Here in California, they're fully on board. California has no problem selling out to whomever the highest bidder every single time. It's just that's just how our state is run. But we definitely are a part of the Common Core. Are they doing that in Arizona, Vincent? Do you know?
I'm sorry. I was over here getting ready for an edit. I'm fixing to do some post, and I was completely distracted.
I was asking you if they're doing
Give it back to me, but as far Common Core here in Arizona, you know what? I'm way out here in the hills. I'm really actually 60 miles from anywhere and almost anyone. And I do believe, though, I recall that they are doing that here. I know back in Arkansas, they've already started it there. And, a lot of people are speaking up. And that's another instance where just the common folk that aren't, privy to all this crazy notions that we've all got here have, they're seeing this. And it's quite obvious. So, along with Agenda 21, people are realizing that, the noose is getting tighter.
Yeah. And I think that more people are homeschooling, which is a good sign. Like myself, I'm going to be pulling my oldest out of school next year for the fall. And I think a lot of people are doing that more and more because when you're seeing it get to this level, you go, it's just not even worth it anymore. It's a lot of work to take your kid out of school and have them at home with you, but all day long and doing it, being their teacher and everything. But I think in the long run, it's far more rewarding. And like you're saying, we can teach them trivium. I can teach through those methods and teach kind of outside the box. Just let him be the autodidact. That's really the way that I kind of see it, is that he tells me what he wants to learn, and I provide him with the tools to do it.
Yeah. Did you guys hear the unschooling kids last week on the radio here?
No, yeah.
I didn't. I'm familiar with unschooling, though. That's a really cool movement, I think.
Is that the same as homeschooling?
It's unschooling is to try and break the conditioning. Yeah, it is it's kind of what I described. It's like rather schooling is through reward and conditioning. Unschooling is where the student is really it's child centered. So they're going to really do what they're going to tell you how they want to learn, and and that is creating an autodidact, because they're going to teach themselves in a way. But they're kids, so you obviously need to guide them. Yeah. But rather than be their ruler, you're more of a guide. You're more going to guide them to the right. Let them take off.
Sounds like free school here in the Netherlands. That's what they call it, free school, as if you're free when you're in school, right? But,
exactly.
The thing that was the same with unschooling and the free school here in the Netherlands was that on the radio there were 7 of these unschoolers, and one was like 9, and the one was 12, and one was 14, and one was 16, so they got them all together, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a very good idea, and that's also what's done at this free school. There's like 1 or 2 teachers for everybody,
Yeah.
So, yeah. And they can do whatever they like. There's lots of things for them to do, lots of books for them to read, and they can do whatever they like. They do get to taught how to read, though. It's not like they have free, quote unquote, all the time.
Right. But, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, there should be some sort of structure. I wouldn't suggest that people just go out and let their kids just do whatever they want and roam, because, who knows what it is that they're going to want to do. But within a certain amount of guidelines, you kind of let them teach themselves. So in other words, if you say, well, these are going to be our subjects, English, science, math, but you tell me where you want to go with that. What is your interest? And my son is really interested in like ancient Greece, ancient Rome.
Okay.
There's so much that you can learn from that historically and politically. But so he likes that, so that's where we'll go with that. He wanted to learn. He likes Japanese anime, so we're going to teach Japanese. So it's like you just within those guidelines. So he understands he has to learn language. He has to understand that he has to learn math and has to pick a science and so forth. But then I let him make that choice, and then he, based on his interest, because then that'll just make it. I mean, we all know that's true. Anyone who's there, I remember being in school was the same. I mean, if it was the topic that I really liked, I could do really, really well. But if I didn't care less, then guess what? I didn't care less, and I got a bad grade.
Yeah,
that too. It's as simple as that. We all have memories of just. There were times where it was just tedious, and you hated it, and you only did it because you had to.
Oh, totally. No, I want to piggyback on what you're saying, and and because of that too, we're all conditioned to think that we're just bad at that subject. But maybe it was taught to us in a way that that we were just so bored, or we thought it was torture, that we were like, forget it. And I feel like math and history is taught. I'm more excited about history, learning about history as an adult than I ever was when I was a child.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Because it's basically. It's told from an old, rich white man's point of view, and I hope I'm not trying to be offensive, but we're not taught that. And I think on a subliminal level too, it teaches you if you don't fit into that category, you're not as important, or that you didn't have a voice in history. Yeah. And now that I'm older, and I'm like, there are different perspectives, and of course, there are different points of view. But as when you're growing up, you're taught like George Washington, chop down the cherry tree. Betsy Ross, what are the women you learn about? And then maybe Martin Luther King, right? And that's it. That's all history. Of course, I'm being facetious, but
we were talking about school a couple of moments ago when you dropped Virstine.
Yeah.
And I told April and Vince that we in the Netherlands, when you go to school, you get like grades, but they're not letters, but numbers, like 1 to 10. Would you say that that is also a kind of conditioning towards rewards?
Oh, yeah, and it's also, I want to say classification, not just rewards, but also kind of like a, the word is slipping me. But, basically, if you get an A, you're a better person. Not even a smart person, you're a better person than a person that gets a C. And I've taught now the past few years, I lived and taught in Taiwan for 2 years, and now I'm teaching in America, but I'm teaching at an Asian, like a prep school that's owned by Taiwanese, and they have a lot of Taiwanese and Chinese students. And in their culture, in our culture too, I think it's a little more in their culture, but they're very, very fixed on just getting good grades. And getting like the best scores. They're not even don't seem to be worried whether they can synthesize the information that they've learned, and if they're passionate about learning, they just want to get good test scores, good grades, and that's it. And it's interesting because before, when I was teaching in Taiwan, I was approached by a mother who wanted me to privately tutor her son, and she was saying that basically she sees what's going on in her culture and she doesn't want her son to be a test-taking machine. And I just thought that was a very interesting observation that she made, because I feel like a lot of people, they're coming into this new era with technology and all
right. New era of technology, and then she dropped.
Oh, no. Well, I can't speak to what she was about to say, but I think what we've talked about on our show before with regards to the new era of technology is, I think, goes back to what she was mentioning earlier with this. It sort of teaches kids or desensitizes them to not possess empathy. And that's I don't know if did you ever see, are you familiar with the comedian Louis C.K.? He talked about...
The who?
There's a American comedian by the name of Louis C.K. He's hilarious. I'm obsessed with him.
Louis C.K.? No, I've never heard.
I'll send you his video. He's really funny. And
please do.
He did this interview where he talked about how he won't give his kid a cell phone. And he thinks the reason why is because they don't teach people empathy. So in other words, it's because if you text somebody or if you write something online, you don't have to see their reaction. So you're essentially eliminating 75% of communication, because most of our communication is nonverbal. We hear it in the tone of voice. We hear it in, the facial expression. We can see how somebody feels. They don't have to tell us. And that helps us create empathy. But when you remove that from it and everything is verbal, then you lose that part of empathy. And so I think... that's one of the things when we had Clint Richardson on our show that he was saying is part of this Common Core, is getting kids off of just being away from human contact and more into this technological age. And just everything is on computer. And part of that is because when you lose empathy, you stop caring. You stop caring about other people, and you stop caring about the world. You become essentially isolated, narcissistic in your own thing. And maybe that's what this aristocratic elite want us to do, is to just be within ourselves and not really connect to others.
Yeah, well, I think that most of these people that are in the quote-unquote ruling circles are psychopaths themselves and do not know what empathy is. So I don't find it strange that they would like us to have no empathy either. Right. Yeah. Yeah,
precisely. But that's the very thing that makes us human. So
exactly.
Isn't that like I said, the 75% of our communication is nonverbal, and those are the aspects that are, it's like you can't really, people just learn it. You can't really teach it like you teach people how to read or write. It's something that you just pick up on.
That's something interesting for me, though, because you say 75% is non-verbal, right?
Yeah.
The trivium is grammar, logic, and rhetoric. And rhetoric, of course, has to do with how do you persuasively let your thoughts come across to other people, right? And it's about speaking. And there should be something there regarding the other 75%, but I've never seen anything about it yet.
Well, having a son, my son is nonverbal. He's 9 years old and he doesn't have verbal communication. So when I was learning about how to teach him language, a lot of what this behaviorist conditioning would be to just go straight to the verbal. But that's not how we learn. People don't learn that way. They have you're developmentally, you're going to learn non-verbally first. You're going to pick up on social cues. You're going to see, if you, it's just the look in someone's eye, or it's their expression, the sound in their voice. Like how animals can understand you. They don't necessarily know what you're saying, but they can read the sound of your voice, right? They can understand that part of it, so they know if you're mad or sad or glad. They get it. Yeah. And so all that is. Pragmatic communication, and developmentally we learn that first. And so, but in a technological society, you don't. It's all verbal. It's all just reading. So I mean, the trivium, I don't think that they deliberately, I think when they're saying speaking, they're encompassing language. I don't think it's meant to, language as a whole, rather than just verbal, because there's a difference between language and words. Language itself is very broad. Words are just an aspect of that. So maybe they're saying speaking, but I think that they're talking about communication in general. And I think that's how it goes, but I'm not. I can't say I'm 100% certain about that. But that's the way I would interpret that. And it's very important. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's been used in a bad way against us by sophists. They call themselves sophisticated, right? And they use all kinds of logical fallacies and still try to come across as reasonable in their arguments. And because we have not mastered ourselves in these fallacies, we tend to fall for it. I'm sorry, but Verstein seems to be offline. And we're coming up to the last minute, so I wanted to ask you... April, to give your program.
We are on UCY TV, so you can find us on Sundays, 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific Time. You can also find our website with our archived shows, our essays, our store, everything like that at truthertalk.com.
Awesome. Vincent, when do we hear you?
Thursday nights right here on UCY.TV, 8 o'clock on the East Coast. And, hey, I'd like to thank everybody for jumping in, Walter, April, and Verstein, and for Cynthia Brooks. Hopefully she's in the move right now, so hopefully we'll get connections back.
All right.
Peace, y'all. Take care. New Deal Resonance is up next.
Thanks, all.
Back.
Take care, everybody.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Thanks, April.
Thanks, guys.
In angels, and I believe in you. I believe in the simple things and everything you do. I believe in the heavens above, and I believe in truth. I believe in the love we have, because I believe